Remember when you were young, shone like the sun. Shine on, you crazy diamond.
Hello everybody, welcome to Dark Side of the Walls Shining On in Lockdown vlog. This is episode 6. Apologies it's taken a little while to come to fruition. We had hoped to get the keyboard players John and Pete involved, but for various reasons they've found themselves a bit short for time. So in the interest of getting something out there, me and Lou decided that we'd do this one as a fill-in. And I'm going to keep this intro really short because it's me. So yeah, we decided to get Lou to give me a Zoom call and have a bit of a chat and see how we got on. And anyway, I hope you enjoy our conversation and me showing you a few bits of my bass gear. Sounds like Alan and Dave certainly do. I'll leave it there. See you later. Bye.
Well, hello, Brother Chilts. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, sister.
Oh, good. So what have you been up to? How's lockdown treating you, sir?
Well, I've been quite busy doing these vlogs, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I know.
And yeah, getting a bit of work in, keeping myself busy. And
yeah.
Importantly, Dark Side of the Wall doesn't start and finish on a gig night. It's been going on. We've been doing lots of organisation and work in the background, trying to make sure that we're ready for when we do actually come back gigging again. And of course, we've had a few conference calls with all the band members, as you
yeah, it's been nice to see people, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it's been good fun, and we've had a bit of a laugh on them at times. It's been quite interesting. We've had a few decisions to make, haven't we? So it's difficult times for anybody in the live music game right now.
Absolutely.
But we've got to make sure that we come through it, we don't become the victims of it, and we're ready to rock and roll as soon as Boris Johnson and his happy bunch of God only knows what actually say yes.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's got to be confident. That's the main thing. Health is the biggest single issue out there.
That's Tony's
it goes for the band as well. You know, we've got to feel safe and secure to do what we do. We're not going to risk ourselves, obviously, and we need to know that our audience are going to be happy to come along and see some live music again. Yeah, can't wait. It's been a long time.
Has.
March 14th.
I know, and a couple of gigs cancelled. I mean, all of us have been pretty devastated. I mean, just here I've got on the calendar Saturday the 6th, Swan Theatre.
I know.
I love that venue as well. It's so gutting not to be able to play.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's why I put the post on Facebook on that particular day.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of them things. You look at the calendar and think, should be loading the car up and heading off down to Boston now.
Yeah,
and of course, next month we were due to go back up and see the good people of Grimsby. That would have been good fun. And then, of course, there was the musician in Leicester, which was going to be in August. Yeah. So, having already cancelled Coventry and Ibstock, we'll see what happens later on in the year. We've got 2 shows booked. We're actually booked at the Ben Hall in Rugby on Saturday, the 21st of November. And a return to the Mill Arts Centre in Banbury scheduled for the 12th of December. Whether those shows go ahead or not, it's just too hard to say at the moment. We just don't know. But
got to keep your eye on things. Yeah, because this is your vlog, because we've done a few of the band members' vlogs now, so we're going to put the spotlight on you, sir. Sorry about that. But obviously, I think everybody who's a Dark Side fan knows that you've been with the band for many years and are not only the bass player, but are also, and vocalist as well. You contribute vocally, don't you? But are also the manager, or certainly the primary manager of Dark Side of the Wall. So as far as from a bass player's perspective, what are sort of the biggest challenges for you?
Well, firstly, not being quite as good as Pink Floyd's bass player. Actually, there was one rehearsal once, and our esteemed drummer at the time said, "You're not playing it like Guy Pratt." And I said, "Well, I know, but if I was Guy Pratt, I probably wouldn't be in this particular band. Something a lot more high profile." But no, to be honest, the bass playing role in Pink Floyd, it's not one of the spotlight roles, is it? Like what Adrian does with the guitar or what Taz plays with sax. Don't really take any solos, particularly now. One of these days isn't in the set any longer. And it's really working with the drummer and providing that background and that rock steady platform for the rest of you guys to shine.
Definitely.
And that's why I love playing with Tony so much, because as a drummer, he brings out the best in me as a bass player. I kind of work off his fills, and that's what I get off on, really, as us two working together and knowing that we're a tight unit and getting all our stops right and putting the dynamics in as and where they're needed. And I like being at the front of the stage as well. I think I'm not one of those shy retiring bass players who stands at the back, and I suppose that's just something that's occurred naturally over the years. And I like talking to the audience. The roles that I take vocally are much more diminished these days because we've got much better singers in the band, thankfully. So I tend to do the screamy, shouty bits, and the ones that make the veins stand out on your head and run like hell. But on the whole, the bass playing side of it, I've always seen Pink Floyd as having a nice deep bass sound. I do like a bass to sound like a bass, and for the most part, keeping it simple. There's that old adage about it's not what you play, it's what you leave out that actually creates the feel.
So true.
Yeah, that's important, and especially in Pink Floyd. And I don't think there aren't that many regular, what you might call bass lines. I mean, obviously Money is one, isn't it?
Yeah,
but that is one song. Yeah, I mean, Another Brick in the Wall is another one where bass line is actually very distinctive. But for the most part, it's underpinning, along with the drums, everything else that's going on.
I think often that the role of the bass player in a band is really sort of unsung a lot of the time. That their role is critical.
Unsung, unseen, often unappreciated.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Instruments where you kind of notice it if it's not there.
Oh God, absolutely. And you are a frontman as well, really, aren't you? I mean, you sort of co-front the band with Mick Freeman.
Yeah, well, we're a double act.
You have loads of banter between you, which is great, and I think you bounce off one another as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I've always enjoyed doing, and particularly with Mick, we're like that anyway. You know, when we talk on the phone or person to person, we have a lot of banter, and it's nice that people get to see that on stage as well, because I know if I say something even remotely iffy, he'll jump on it. Make a joke, make me look daft in front of the audience, but he'll know he'll get that back as well.
But that's another important point, though, isn't it, about Dark Side? And I know that this has been said before, but that all of the members of Dark Side of the Wall don't take themselves too seriously, but they take their music very seriously, and obviously we take portraying the music of Pink Floyd extremely seriously. So that I think that kind of banter that happens between you and Mick is a really important part of who we are as a band. Yeah,
for me, Lou, it's along with the music, it's the most important part, because I've seen a lot of Pink Floyd tribute acts out there now, and I've obviously see what we do, and I think our unique selling point, for want of a better phrase, using the marketing out there, is that we have a lot of fun on stage, and we don't take ourselves seriously, and I don't think we ever do. You know, from the moment we get there to set up, to load in, it's just continual laughs and banter, and that then goes onto the stage as well, and we all just enjoy playing together, being in each other's company. And I think if you didn't show that to the audience, that would be a shame. And I think it just...
I do.
But it's not engineered as well. It actually is very natural. And
it is. It is.
An important part of what we are. And I love it when people put comments on Facebook after the show, and they're picked up on that, because it just makes me feel vindicated in how we approach the Pink Floyd tribute genre. I'd sooner people were more honest and more natural. And I think we're both of those. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, likewise, totally likewise. Tell us a little bit about your kit that you've got, because haven't you recently upgraded some of your gear?
Yes, I did. I'll tell you what, I'll do a little feature on it.
Okay, oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Hi there. I've been asked by Louise to go through the kit that I use on stage as Dark Side of the Walls bass player. Shouldn't take too long, to be honest, because it's quite simplistic what I use. I don't go for any mega effects as such, and as long as I have a good deep bass sound, I'm quite happy with that. There's only a couple of songs where I have to use an effect, but I changed my backline gear last year. Actually, for many years I was using a Trace Elliot combo, and in the end I just thought it sounded really bit old-fashioned and it wasn't punching through when the band were playing. Certainly I was struggling to hear myself on stage when I was trying to get higher notes. The other thing is I've got a bit of a glass back, and that thing was an absolute bugger to carry. It used to kill me every night, particularly unloading after a gig and a long drive back. So I decided to have a look around and see what was out there, because I'd heard there'd been innovations in lightweight cabs and lightweight amps as well. Spoke to a professional bass player I know, James Eller, if you're watching, James, hi there, and he recommended the GK cabs, said he'd been using them himself, and I discovered the Aguila amplifier when the other band that I play in with, Louise and Tony, Kafka Diva, we did a support slot to Badfinger, and their bass player, his whole backline was Aguila. He'd got the amp, he'd got the cab. Quite an expensive setup, to be honest, but I used this backline as you do when you're a support band, and I kind of fell in love with the sound that I got from the Aguila tone hammer. I decided when I was going to change everything that I had to have an Aguila, so I bought one of these. It's an Aguila tone hammer 350. Plenty of switches on it, and lots of different options, and I can tell you it has a real punch to it, and I've just felt like bass playing has become a real joy since I got this, and I love the sound it produces. We've got all the traditional things really. This is my input lead, which goes down the side to an effects processor, which I shall show you in a bit. We've got gain, mid-level, bass, master, drive, mid-feed, treble, so you have your combination of sounds. Also got a mute switch here, which is quite handy if you have to switch instruments, or you've got an issue where you need to take the guitar off and unplug it, and you don't get that horrible electronic noise of your lead. So that's everything that it has. Yes, it has a direct DI input, which is where the sound guys go straight into that, and that sends the signal direct to the PA desk. So there's no miking up of cabs or anything like that. So yeah, I love that. This is a 15-inch speaker in a GK cab, Galen Kruger, that stands for. I wanted to get the 10-inch speakers as well, but again, it's that thing about how much can you fit in your car and how much do you want to lug about. I went with this, started off with it, and thought, yeah, it works. So I'm really happy with the new sound that I got, and of course it is so lightweight. And if I do this, like, you can it's just so nothing to it. I can pick this up and actually stand it over my head. It's that light. Whereas the Trace Elliot, it took all my strength to get it 4 inches off the floor. So that's the new backline setup. Guitar-wise, I use two basses really. I always have two on stage because I play with one of these, and I know there's a lot of snobbery amongst bass players who say, no, you're not a true bass player unless you play with your fingers. I do play with my fingers a little bit on certain songs, both in Floyd tribute band and in Kafka Diva as well. But as I started out as a guitar player, I've always been used to playing with a pick, and instead of holding a bass like that, I've always held it like that, and it's just, I don't know, the more natural way that I play, and it's much more fluent for me. And it's good enough for Paul McCartney and Roger Waters to use one of these babies, so I think I'll do all right with that. I'll show you my main guitar first, actually. This is my pride and joy. This is a Fender Precision bass, but it's a special edition because it also has a jazz pickup from the Fender Jazz, one of these single coil pickups here. Fender precision pickups, being a split coil. And the beauty of that is that I wanted that deep round sound that I spoke about earlier, and the Fender Precision really gives you that. But having the option to get a little bit more punch on the higher end of your sound from the Jazz, but just by bringing that little tone control, both pickups got their own individual tone controls, as well as the traditional bass and treble one. And so I can bring more of the Jazz pickup into certain songs, because as we go through the set, there are certain sounds that you need to try and get without fiddling about too much, so that's quite a quick solution for me. And I loved this when I saw it in the shop as well. It's got, I don't know if you can see really, it's a matte charcoal finish with a brushed metal plate, scratch plate, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. It sounds really nice actually. So I'll tell you what, I'll plug it in. Well, actually turn it up, see if we can play something. So here's a little bit of the money bass line. I always play this one at sound checks actually, because it uses 4 strings, so it's a good one for them to get some kind of idea on my overall sound, how it's coming over. How many times you go around that riff on the course of the song, God knows, but played that one a lot. So that is my main guitar. I'll just mute it whilst I put this back on the stand. This one is my backup really. I bought this back in the early 90s I think, when I was playing blues, and I used to have a Westone Thunder, and I loved that. It got a real nice finish to it and everything, but I thought I was more playing in rhythm and blues bands at that particular time, so I thought it only right that I bought myself a Fender Precision, but money was tight, couldn't really afford that. So this one is actually a Squier, as you can see here. Squier are Fenders basically, but instead of being produced in the US, they're produced out in the Far East, but they're pretty much a Fender copy. So this is a nice one, black and white, of course. Nice strap that my sister bought me, which is Dark Side of the Moon, of course. This one now, its main purpose is to cover if I break strings, and as I said earlier, playing with the pick I sometimes do, and it has been known. So it's kind of reassuring to know that I've got a pre-tuned guitar sat right next to me, so in the event of a string going, I can just switch, because it takes quite a while to change a bass string. I've also previously had it on stage for when we've done songs like Not Now John off the Final Cut album, where I've detuned the E string down to a D, and just to make it so that I can play the main line on a deeper string and make it sound a lot more punchy and give that bottom end to what's quite a rock song really. And so that was the reason it was on stage, and I think anyone who saw us around that time would probably always wonder, what the hell is he changing his guitar for again? But that's all this is really now. It's a backup, but it served me really well throughout the 90s. So many gigs that I did with it, and I replaced it with this one. I think I bought this in 2003 actually, so this one's been around a while. I'm not one of these people who goes out buying basses every 5 minutes. Maybe I should, but whatever. I've always been more than happy with these little guys, and they play a big part in what I do, and I take both of them to every single gig. Even though quite often this one, it's just got out of the case, it's tuned up and it stands on the stage next to me and gets unused, but it's that sort of insurance policy against things going wrong. So I'll put this down to one side. It's a very similar sound actually, probably just a little bit more bottom end on this, but it doesn't have the jazz pickup of course, so it's not quite as flexible as my main guitar. The other thing I use, if I can pick it up from here, is a B1 on or ON, I never know how to say that, effects processor. Bought this last year as well, and it comes in particularly handy for getting a delay effect. So I use a delay effect on Wearing the Inside Out, actually, which is the latest song that's come into the set, where the instrumental breaks occur. Taz is playing his saxophone alongside Adrian's lead guitar, and the bass is just dropped in behind it, playing root notes but with a delay on them, and it's on the second beat of the bar as well, which is quite unusual, and it gives a really nice little backdrop to what they're doing. So all I have to do is just hit the root note, and the effects processor does the rest, and it sounds something like this. I do use a delay effect on Happiest Days as well, where it does that sort of rundown thing. That's more of one of these. So yeah, that's my bass setup. That's all there is to it, really, and the rest of the time I spend jumping around like a young man, and then spend all day Sunday complaining about having a bad back. But anyway, that's of interest largely to people who have played a bass once or twice, and probably extremely boring to everybody else, but that's what I use, and that's what I transport to a gig every time, along with all the various leads and stands and all the rest of the paraphernalia. So anyway, that's it. Back to the chat.
Tell me a bit about how you came to join Darkside in the first place.
Right, yeah, this is something where I have to put my memory in gear because it's so long ago, obviously. It started out because I played a lot of rhythm and blues music back in the 90s. I was in the Razors and the Reflex Blues Band around Leicester. And but I also knew Pete Riley through work. We're both in the graphic design field, and we got talking, and he turned out to be a musician as well. But then the tribute thing started to kick in around the mid-90s, and I'd seen the Australian Pink Floyd band, and I thought, well, other than them, no one else is doing this. And being a Floyd fan, you know, I thought, well, let's have a go at it. And I started recruiting a few people who I knew might want to get involved. Pete being the first, because I didn't know any of the keyboard players, and it was always great fun playing with Pete. And, you know, 25 years on, it still is. And so I really appreciated him coming on board. I got the lead guitarist from our blues band at the time to join us as well, but he was much more into Eric Clapton than he was Dave Gilmour, so we ended up having this sort of weird fusion of Pink Floyd and Cream. You know? So every time we went into a solo, Dave wanted to be doing Crossroads or Sunshine of Your Love. So Pigs on the Wing we were called, and we did about a dozen gigs, including Leicester and Derby around the Midlands and stuff. And as part of that, I just thought, I saw this poster for Dark Side the Wall, and I travelled over to the Moor Barns in Lutworth on the A5, and that was one of the scenes of Dark Side regular shows in the early years.
Right.
Sadly, it closed down, and it's now a swingers club, so for reasons we don't frequent it anymore. But anyway, I went to see Dark Side of the Wall at that point. That would have been August 1999. And I was just really impressed with what they did. They got a full PA rather than just playing off backline kit like we did. And I was really, really taken with what they did. So much so that I went back to see them again when they rebooked there for December. And this time I got talking to them because Pigs on the Wing had sort of died a natural death. And I was looking for something to do, and I thought, well, bass player doesn't look particularly happy, so I'll approach one of the other guys and say, here's my phone number if ever you need a bass player. I know you're based in Coventry. I'm in Leicester, but the M69 is not that big a road really. And if ever you need a bass player, give me a ring. And it was John Wall and Cozzy I spoke to. Then in January, I got a phone call at home, and it was John on the phone, and he was saying, "Oh, you're not going to believe this. Our bass player's left, and so has the keyboard player as well. He said, would you and your guy from Pigs on the Wing, namely Pete Riley, be interested in coming over and having a play with us?" So I immediately said yes. Got on the phone to Pete, had to twist his arm a little bit. We went over to Coventry, and even that first night in the rehearsal room, we just loved it. The guys in the band were just brilliant and so welcoming. And that was John Wall, Barry Page, Stuart Cosgrove, and John's son Michael Wall that had come back. So we passed the audition, as it were, and we became a six-piece.
Brilliant.
And me and Pete made our debut in March 2000. And that's getting on for 300 gigs ago now, and 20 years later.
So it is your 20th anniversary in, well, lockdown.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely, it was. The band itself started in 1996, of course, so it's been going 24 years now. It's just staggering that we went along thinking, oh, this would be a fun thing to do for a bit, and here we are 20 years later, and it's kind of taken over my life. So
what about in terms of gigs that really stand out in your memory? Yeah,
I really do enjoy all of them, but I mean, I know when I spoke to Mick Freeman, he said, oh, the last one over at Tamworth, because it was a new venue for us and we didn't quite know what to expect, and the show we put on was amazing and the audience were just incredible.
Wow. All of the crew that worked at Tamworth were just lovely, weren't they?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love, is you go around the country and you go into different venues and you meet all these people whose job it is to help you put on your show. And play some lovely theatres for some lovely venue managers, and all the technical staff inside these places are really great to work with. And they look at us think, good God, what they're bringing in a bloody great circle for. Now they want to use our projector. Now there's lasers and we've got to put signs up. But they all sort of seem to welcome us and enjoy what we do as well, which is important. Other gigs, I think I always hark back to when we played the Upton Festival back then in about 2013, 14, something like that. And we were in a marquee. This marquee held 3,000 people, and halfway through the first song it just filled up completely full, and people were out extending beyond the open sides of it. And that was easily the biggest crowd that we've ever played to, and just the atmosphere in there was it was amazing. I remember just buzzing for ages afterwards. And then probably the other one that really stands out in my memory is John Wall's last appearance with us, where we always say in our press releases, award-winning Pink Floyd tribute band, and that was the night we won the award. So for the show we put on at the Y Theatre in Leicester, and it was John and Michael. It was and Jim, the singer at the time. It was their last appearance. Turned out to be one of Abby's last as well. And it was just an amazing night. Sold the place out. 360 people in there, all rammed in. And then about a month later, I got this email from the guy at the Leicester Mercury saying we'd been nominated for the best rock and blues gig of the year, and we ended up having to go to the ceremony at De Montfort Hall. But it was a cracking night, that was, and it was great for them to actually receive that kind of acknowledgement.
Absolutely, and much deserved. The work that goes in, I think that's also something that people tend not to see, is they sort of see the gig night, don't they? But all of the work that goes in behind the scenes, which I suppose is, not only rehearsals, but also the massive role that you've taken on really over the years, more and more so with the management side.
I don't know, because I'm just that kind of person. I just like the organisational aspect of shows, and I should say on the band management side as well, I do get a bit of help. Not least,
of course,
front man Mick Freeman. The way we split it up is that we have two defined roles for Mick. One is that he makes initial contact with venues, and he looks after the band's bank account. I organise the shows once they're in place, if you like. And what we do though, we have a discussion before we approach anywhere, and discussing its suitability. So we have to check out several things. Quite often we have venues approach us, and that's always the easiest way, because they're getting in touch with you. it's word of mouth. Somebody's said, "Oh, you want to get Dark Side of the Wall in," and they've got in touch with them, and that's cool because they really want you, and so there's not much to do in terms of organising it.
Yeah.
Where the other issues are when we look at, I don't know, say Tamworth approached us, for instance. That was really good to know. It's a new theatre, and they wanted a Pink Floyd act in. But there are other places where we want to go and play in a certain town, if you like, and we'll look at the venues. We'll do some research online. We'll look at the venues, see which ones are suitable for a Dark Side of the Wall show, because we have certain criteria to meet.
That's right.
Stage size being one, venue capacity, because we need to know that there's a potential yield that we can actually sell enough tickets to cover the costs of the show, which I think I mentioned in this very first vlog, substantial. What we do is a Pink Floyd show.
God, yeah.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
You know, he helps a lot, and we have regular phone calls, and you know, one of these, he'll ring me up. Oh God, have you seen that? What are we going to do about this? Then we have to have these chats, and of course during lockdown, because we're not seeing you guys at rehearsal, we've had these meetings as well, and I know you're very proactive yourself, as these vlogs are proving. You know, it's an important contribution that you make behind the scenes as well.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and even, I mean, there are so many things.
Yeah.
Sorting out the crew, the lighting crew, the sound crew.
That's a biggie, though. That's time consuming, really.
Massively time consuming. I mean, I work for myself, so I can interrupt myself, but it does get a bit stressful at times, because I'm trying to manage my own business, but also manage Dark Side of the Wall and the time constraints. Yeah. Even booking a gig, trying to make sure that all 8 band members are available, that the venue have got the dates available, that they haven't got any other Pink Floyd bands in there, for instance, then making sure the crew is available, and then publicising it, putting it on the website, confirming it, getting contracts, signing all the contracts, getting those back to them, organising all the promotional aspect, whether we're running a social media campaign, whether we're doing things in the press, doing all the posters, all the leaflets. All the venues have to write web copy for that goes off, along with supporting imagery, and liaise with the marketing team as well as the technical team in terms of what gear we're bringing in. And that's all just in the run-up to the show. And then, of course, there's all the organising you guys.
I know.
For
and that's a task. It really is. There's 8 people in total, all with their own commitments and jobs, because we're not professional, are we? We do this as a hobby.
That's the one thing we always have to accommodate, is the fact that we all have to do this as something extra to our regular lives, and I think that's what makes us what we are as well. We're not doing it for the money, obviously, but the downside of that is it does have to fit in around our own work commitments, our own family commitments and such like, and obviously family holidays and things like that. So, and of course, liaising with rehearsal rooms, that's another thing.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
And then you have to do all the things like PRS, you know, filling out PRS forms for the venue. And then the financial reconciliation, where I have to justify where every single penny has been spent.
That's right, yeah.
And what we plough back in. And of course, you know, just recently, because to ensure our long-term future, Dark Side of the Wall has invested in buying its own light show now. So the light show we've been using, we've now purchased it so that we own it. And that's been a big decision, but a big step forward. But what it does do is it ensures that we have a show for when we're ready to go back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but this is why I'm actually only 24 and look like.
So you're only actually 4 when you joined the band.
I've often said I'd love to just turn up one day and just bring my bass and my amp and just.
I know it's all done.
Turn up about, you know, time for sound check, set up, do the sound check, sit in the dressing room, have a laugh, then go do the show, and then go home. That would be. I'm always one of the last to leave. It's just the nature of what I do.
Yeah, it always amazes me whenever we talk Floyd that you are a real mine of information when it comes to Pink Floyd. You're obviously a mega fan, but you've got the most amazing memory. I mean, it has to be said that Steve not only sort of knows pretty much every fact about Floyd that there is to know, but also every show that any member of the band has ever played. You keep a log of all of that, don't you? And you've obviously been a fan for many years, and
yeah. And
what is it about their music for you that's sort of drawn you into that extent where you feel really passionate about it?
That's a really good question, actually. And I got into them initially because of being a Beatles fan. I grew up buying all the Beatles albums. I think I was reading a Beatles biography by Hunter Davis, and it was talking about when they were recording Sgt. Pepper, and there was a band in the studio next door who were recording their first album, and it mentioned they were Pink Floyd. And back then I was probably 12, 13 years old, didn't have a lot of money, so I went down to the local library in Birstall, where I was brought up, and got Dark Side of the Moon out. And I just remember coming home with it and just being taken by the cover, for one thing. I'd never quite seen anything like that, and thinking, well, there's no picture of the band on it. Who are these guys?
Yeah.
And I remember the family were all watching telly, some crap from the 70s on television, Generation Game or something. And I sat there at the back of the room with the radiogram, big set of headphones, and just closed my eyes and listened to the whole album start to finish.
Wow.
Often getting up to turn it over because obviously it was vinyl
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
And just being absolutely blown away. I'd never heard anything quite like it. And I think everything from the musicianship through to the production levels, through to the writing, the lyrics particularly appealed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I think from that moment on, because it was so different to everything else that I'd ever listened to personally. And then I got Wish You Were Here, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, just like then again took me somewhere else. I couldn't.
Oh, I know, that is just
even
genius.
And I think if I had to choose one thing about it, is that when you listen to Pink Floyd, it's like the band never feel rushed. They always are making every moment count, and they're taking their time over it and making sure that everything that they want to get over musically is perfectly achieved. There's nothing sort of disposable about it. Everything is meant to last, as is the case. Dark Side of the Moon was on the charts for decades, wasn't it? And,
I know.
Yeah, and
I think they were real pioneers of things like using samples. And I mean, there were probably other bands sort of in that time doing a similar kind of sort of experimental thing. But I think, God, Floyd were the first to use the samples and things. And Dark Side of the Moon perfectly illustrates that, doesn't it?
I think that's... I think that's a really brilliant point, because when I first listened to that, it was almost like there was a cast of characters going on in the whole album. And obviously, the more you get into Floyd and you learn about who these people are, Dorman from Abbey Road, and it's Roger the Hat there, Rodigan, and people like that. And it's just really, it just took you into another world that normal pop music just didn't. So I just love the music that's a bit more sort of, I don't know, lie down and immerse yourself in it.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good word.
Suits my character in that.
Yeah.
And then of course, I mean, I think The Wall as well came out.
I know.
I was 16 when that came out, and so, to this day, Comfortably Numb is my favourite song. Not just in Floyd's, but in the world. I've always lent towards Roger Waters as a lyricist because he touches subject matter that's close to my heart, and he writes about losing his father at Anzio in World War II, and of course, and the effects of growing up and becoming a man but without his father there. And I as I say, empathise with that because I lost my dad at an early age. Not as early as Roger, to be fair, But I was only 22 when he passed away, and he's left a massive hole in my life. And I'd love him to see what I'm doing now. I'd love him to see my kids, but I never got that opportunity. So when Roger is talking about his absent father, that sort of strikes a chord with me. And it's something that, hits home, and a little bit of that in there, So, but that when he talks about his father in such respect and how he was that when he was a child, he was just a fleeting glimpse.
When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I can't put my finger on it now. The child is grown, the dream is gone.
Kind of identify with that, and it means a lot to me to listen to those particular lyrics. As much as I love all sorts of different types of other music, Pink Floyd is the thing that I would always come back to. And how fortunate am I? I'm playing a band, playing this music with like-minded musicians who are not only musicians but also my friends, and playing to like-minded audiences. It's just a brilliant thing to do, and that's probably why I've been doing it 20 years. And and even times when it has got on top of me a little bit, maybe, and it becomes quite all-consuming. But the one thing I always come back to is that I can't imagine a time in my life where I would choose not to stand on a stage and play Comfortably Numb. So I keep doing this. It's just. That's always my motivation. It's what keeps me going, not just that.
I see you wearing a Dark Side of the Wall bit of merch there.
Yeah, have you got the stuff on the back?
You have, the logo is fab.
Yeah,
I love those. My dad wants one of those.
Yeah, thank goodness for swivel chairs.
But they're great, really great.
And you can, if anybody does want one, Mick the merch is still operational. I don't know what sizes we've got or anything like that, but if you're interested in having one of these Comfortably Numb shirts, then just drop us a line, drop us an email, band@pinkfloydtribute.co.uk, and we'll sort you one out. Anyway, it's been really great fun talking to you. And
brilliant.
This is where it's a bit awkward because I do the intro and outro, don't I? So I'm going to say goodbye to you, but actually I'll be back on.
So you'll be seeing you soon.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you soon.
Thanks again for having a chat today. It's been brilliant.
Oh, you're very welcome, Louise, and thank you for being the one who stepped forward to interview the band manager.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it. It's been great. It's been good to see you.
Yeah, lovely talking to you. Bye.
You take care. Bye.
At this point, I usually say thank you very much to the contributor. So, thanks to me. But seriously, though, thank you to Louise for taking that role of the interviewer, just so she could get a few bits and pieces out of yours truly. Next time, hopefully, we'll be able to get something to you regarding one of our elusive keyboard players. They both made promises, so as I say, hopefully that will be the case. All the usual stuff. You will see all the links and Twitter, Facebook and all that sort of thing appearing just below. So please get in touch. We love it when you do. There's always lovely comments on the Facebook posts, and we always take the time to reply to them, and it's great to hear from you in these crazy times that we're living in right now. So until the next one, stay safe and shine on. Bye.